Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The shrill ring of Jack Morgan's phone cut through the silence at 2:37 a.m. He shot up in bed, heart hammering. Only bad news came at this hour. He grabbed the phone from the nightstand, throat tight. "Mr. Morgan? This is Dr. Keener from St. Luke's Emergency. It is about your son, Tyler. You need to come immediately." Jack was already on his feet before the words finished. His mind raced as he pulled on jeans and boots. Tyler? Hurt? How? Where was Ashley? Why had she not called? The hospital was 15 minutes away. Jack's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel as the streets blurred past under the cold sodium lights. He did not feel the night chill or the ache in his hands. All he could see was Tyler's face, laughing at a baseball game, hugging him goodnight, and now possibly broken. The automatic doors of the emergency entrance hissed open. Jack spotted Ashley immediately. She sat stiffly in a plastic chair, makeup smeared, fiddling with her phone. No tears. No panic. Her foot tapped the floor with mechanical rhythm. Jack crossed the lobby in 3 long strides. "Where is he?" Ashley jumped, then stood too quickly, brushing hair from her face. He fell off his bike, Jack. It was an accident. Jack's gut twisted. He had trained in instincts sharper than knives, and every alarm inside him blared now. Her voice wavered. Her eyes darted, classic signs of a lie. Before he could speak, a nurse led him to a small room. Tyler lay there, small and pale under harsh lights. His right arm was wrapped in a fresh cast, scratches across his cheeks. But it was the look in his eyes, wide, fearful, pleading, that cracked Jack's heart in half. "Dad," Tyler whispered, voice trembling. Jack sat on the edge of the bed, careful of the 4 lines. "I am here, buddy. I am not going anywhere." As he brushed Tyler's hair back gently, a cold certainty settled into his bones. This was no accident. Someone had hurt his son, and someone was going to pay. He looked up at Ashley, who lingered in the doorway, arms crossed too tightly. The question burned inside him like fire. "What are you hiding, Ashley?" "Before we move ahead, I just want to say, your support truly means everything. We're building something special here, and our next big goal is reaching 10,000 incredible subscribers. If you're feeling the emotions in these stories, imagine what's still to come. Subscribe now, be part of this amazing journey, and let's keep growing together. Your one click can make a real difference." Let's continue the story. Jack did not leave Tyler's side all night. Machines beeped softly in the background, measuring every breath, every heartbeat. Nurses came and went. Ashley hovered, offering weak excuses and forced smiles, but Jack barely heard her. At dawn, when the hospital quieted down, Jack finally spoke. "Tell me exactly what happened," he said, voice low measured. Ashley wrung her hands. Tyler was riding his bike outside. He hit a pothole, flew over the handlebars. Jack studied her, eyes sharp. "Where?" "Near the park," she said quickly. Jack frowned. That made no sense. Tyler loved the park, but he always rode in the cul-de-sac. He knew every crack in the road there. And why had Ashley not called him first? He stood and paced slowly, processing. Tyler shifted under the blankets, small and silent. Jack leaned down again. "Buddy," he said softly, "I need to know the truth. You can tell me anything." Tyler's lip trembled. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, glancing fearfully toward Ashley. Jack caught that glance. He masked his rage under calmness. He knew the signs: fear of punishment, guilt planted by an adult's manipulations. Later, when Ashley stepped out to take a call, Jack seized the moment. He bent close to Tyler. "Did you fall, Tyler? Or did someone make you fall?" Tyler's eyes filled with tears. He shook his head weakly. Jack's blood ran cold. "Was it an accident?" Tyler shook his head again. Jack forced himself to stay composed. "Was someone else there?" A tiny, miserable nod. Jack gritted his teeth so hard his jaw ached. He hugged Tyler carefully, feeling the small boy's body shudder in silent sobs. When Ashley returned, Jack turned, face a mask of controlled fury. "Get some coffee, Ash," he said evenly. "I have got this." As she walked away, Jack stared at the door. His mind raced. The perfect suburban life he thought he had was a lie. His son's pain was just the surface. He was going to find out who else was involved. And when he did, God help them. The morning sunlight filtered through grimy hospital windows, throwing long gray stripes across the floor. Jack sat stiffly beside Tyler's bed, sipping burnt coffee he barely tasted. His mind was a machine, whirring through possibilities. Ashley played the doting mother now, chatting with nurses, arranging paperwork, acting the part. Jack watched her carefully. Every gesture she made felt rehearsed, calculated. She avoided his gaze, which said more than any confession. When the nurse suggested Tyler could go home by evening, Ashley chirped, "Wonderful," too brightly. Jack's stomach turned. Going home meant back under her roof. Her control. Not happening. On the pretext of checking insurance forms, Jack pulled the attending nurse aside. "Can you note that I will be handling Tyler's discharge?" he asked, voice low but firm. "There are custody matters pending." The nurse's eyebrows lifted, but she nodded professionally. Back in the room, Jack knelt by Tyler's bed again. "You are coming home with me, little man. Just you and me for a while. Sound good?" Tyler's nod was barely visible, but it was enough. Later, as Jack packed Tyler's things, he found something strange. Folded inside Tyler's hospital gown was a crumpled note. In shaky handwriting, "Do not tell. He said he will hurt you worse if you do." Jack's world went black at the edges. His vision tunneled. He turned the paper over and over in his fingers, rage mounting like a tidal wave. He tucked the note into his jacket pocket. Then he turned toward Ashley, who was busy texting someone across the room. She did not notice him staring. She did not see the storm gathering behind his calm mask. But she would. Soon. Very soon. The drive home from the hospital was colder than the December air outside. Jack sat stiffly behind the wheel, hands gripping the steering like a vice, glancing at Tyler through the rearview mirror every few seconds. His boy sat quietly, cast cradled in his lap, staring out the window with blank eyes. Ashley filled the car with empty noise. "I picked up his favorite snacks," she said brightly, "and the new video game he wanted. We will have him smiling in no time." Jack said nothing. Her words floated like dust, meaningless, unable to stick to anything real. The suburban streets rolled by. Christmas decorations blinked on lawns, cheerful and hollow. Jack felt none of it. When they pulled into the driveway, he clocked Brandon Tate's truck parked 2 houses down. The sight of it twisted something deep inside him. "Is that Brandon's truck?" he asked flatly. Ashley barely looked. "Probably. He helps the Harrisons with their garage sometimes, remember?" Jack nodded slowly. He remembered. Brandon had 1,000 excuses for being around. Always helpful. Always smiling. Always too damn close. Inside the house, Jack caught more details. Ashley's perfume lingered thicker than usual. The furniture gleamed, recently cleaned. Too clean. Like someone scrubbing away guilt. He walked Tyler to his room, tucked him in carefully. Tyler clung to him for a moment, silent, before releasing. Downstairs, Jack found Ashley in the kitchen, pretending to scroll through recipes. "You never told me exactly when Tyler fell," he said quietly. She flinched almost imperceptibly. "I was busy. I thought you were on a mission. You do not usually pick up when you are training." Jack studied her. No tears. No guilt. Only a faint edge of annoyance, as if Tyler's injury had been an inconvenience. He nodded again, the way a hunter watches prey shift in the brush. Outside, Brandon's truck pulled away into the night. Inside, Jack began assembling something colder, harder, and more dangerous than any plan he had ever drawn on the battlefield. That night, after Ashley had poured herself a glass of wine and retreated to the living room, Jack went to work. He started in the garage. That was where Ashley often organized when she needed space. In one of the tool cabinets, tucked behind a box of holiday lights, Jack found something odd, a gym bag she had not used in months. Inside, a burner phone, its screen dark but still warm to the touch. Receipts from restaurants he had never heard of. 2 hotel keycards. Jack's pulse hammered against his temples. He turned the burner phone on, shielding the light with his jacket. The message thread opened immediately. Brandon, tonight was perfect. He has no idea. Ashley, I feel alive again. I love you. Brandon, we have to be careful. Tyler almost caught us. Jack gripped the bag so hard the fabric creaked. Tyler, his son, almost caught them, and they had hurt him to keep their secret. He heard a floorboard creak above, Ashley pacing the bedroom. Jack stuffed the burner back into the bag and hid it in his own duffel tucked under the stairs. He returned to the kitchen like nothing had happened. Ashley looked up from her phone and smiled. A smile so false it made Jack's skin crawl. I am thinking of taking Tyler to my mother's for a few days, she said lightly. Give you some time to work. Jack leaned against the counter, arms folded. That sounds good. Inside, he was already crafting the first stage of his plan. Let her think she still had the advantage. Outside, a cold wind rattled the windows. Jack welcomed it. It matched the storm brewing inside him. He smiled back at Ashley, the same way he used to smile before striking an enemy down. 2 nights later, with Ashley gone to run errands, Jack sat beside Tyler's bed again. The soft hum of Tyler's video game filled the room, but Jack could see the boy was not really playing. Tyler, Jack said gently, can we talk for a second? Tyler paused the game, eyes wide, thumb hovering over the controller. You know you can tell me anything, right? Jack said. He kept his voice steady, low, like talking to a skittish animal. Tyler nodded slowly. Jack pulled the crumpled note from his pocket. He placed it on the bed carefully, like laying a grenade with the pin pulled. Tyler stared at it, then looked at Jack. You do not have to be scared anymore, Jack said. Who told you to lie? Tyler's lower lip trembled. He wiped his nose on his sleeve, struggling. Jack waited patiently. Finally, in a broken whisper, Mom said if I told, they would take me away. Jack clenched his hands into fists against his thighs. They, he asked quietly. Tyler nodded. Mom and Uncle Brandon. Jack's heart snapped in two, but his face stayed calm for Tyler's sake. Did Uncle Brandon hurt you? Jack asked, voice tight. Tyler shook his head. He pushed me. I fell. Mom said to say it was my bike. Jack reached over and wrapped Tyler in a fierce, careful hug. You did nothing wrong, he whispered fiercely. None of this is your fault. As Tyler sobbed into his chest, Jack's mind moved like a machine. Ashley had crossed a line Jack had never imagined she would cross. And now there would be no mercy. Only consequences. Deadly ones. Jack watched from the upstairs window as Brandon Tate's truck idled near the corner of the street. His headlights off, just a faint red glow from his taillights in the misty night air. Jack's jaw tightened. For months, he had ignored the signs. The way Brandon had lingered too long at barbecues, offered too much help fixing fences, laughed too hard at Ashley's jokes. He had chalked it up to friendliness, to small-town loyalty. He had trusted him. Not anymore. Jack turned from the window and grabbed the burner phone from the duffel bag. He scrolled back through the texts, reading them slower this time, absorbing every filthy word. Brandon, if he ever finds out, we will blame it on his PTSD. He is a ticking time bomb anyway. Ashley, good idea. He is always so intense, they will believe it. Jack's stomach twisted into something feral. They had not only betrayed him, they had planned to destroy him if he ever stood in their way. He locked the burner phone inside a steel cash box in the basement. Then he went back upstairs and pulled out an old black notebook, the kind he had used during his SEAL missions. The first page he titled with careful, deadly precision, Operation Clean Sweep. He wrote down 2 names first, Ashley Morgan, Brandon Tate. Then, underneath in smaller letters, Tyler, Primary Protection Objective. Jack closed the notebook and placed it on his nightstand. His reflection caught in the mirror across the room, the same hard eyes he had worn before raids in Fallujah. The man in that mirror was not the suburban husband anymore. He was the weapon now, and weapons did not forgive. The next morning, Jack played his part flawlessly. He brewed coffee, made small talk, kissed Ashley lightly on the cheek as she rushed to her Pilates class. His stomach churned with every fake smile. Every casual touch she offered like currency. "You are amazing. You know that?" she said, ruffling Tyler's hair on her way out the door. Jack simply smiled and waved. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, Jack went to work. First, he reset all passwords to the home security system. New access codes. Only he would know them now. Then, he installed 2 tiny surveillance cameras. One in the living room near the fireplace, another in the kitchen facing the back door. The devices were smaller than a quarter, easily blending into the decor. He checked the feeds on his laptop, nodded once. Clear, full-color view. Good. He needed proof. Not just whispers or suspicions. Cold, brutal evidence. When Ashley returned, flushed and smiling from her workout, Jack greeted her warmly. "Thinking about hosting a little cookout this weekend," he said casually. "Invite some friends. Brandon, too." Ashley froze for half a second, barely noticeable. But Jack caught it. "Sounds fun," she said quickly, flipping through the mail. Jack leaned in, his smile effortless. "We can use the new grill. Make it a real party." Ashley laughed lightly, a little too forced. "Perfect. Everyone will love that." Jack nodded, already planning how to use that party to tighten the noose around her neck. She thought she was winning. She thought he was clueless. And that was exactly how he needed her to feel. The weekend came fast, crisp autumn air carrying the scent of charcoal and roasted meat. Jack manned the grill in the backyard, flipping burgers while neighbors laughed and drank beer around him. Ashley floated through the party like a queen, laughing, clinking glasses, tossing long glances toward Brandon. Jack's eyes missed nothing. He caught the way her hand brushed Brandon's back when she thought no one was looking. The secret smiles. The way Brandon's wife stayed suspiciously absent. As the sun dipped low and the fairy lights flickered on, Jack excused himself inside. He checked the laptop. The living room camera had captured everything. Ashley brushing Brandon's arm, whispering in his ear, a kiss stolen behind the garage. Jack closed the laptop softly. His heart pounded with cold adrenaline, not fury. Fury was gone. It was useless now. Outside, laughter rose again as Ashley lit sparklers for the kids. Jack stepped back into the night, his face relaxed, easy. He clinked bottles with Brandon, grilled another round of hot dogs, laughed at a neighbor's joke. No hint of the war he was waging under their noses. Later, when Tyler was asleep upstairs and the last guest stumbled home, Ashley collapsed onto the couch with a sigh. "You are such a good host," she murmured, resting her head against his shoulder. Jack smiled, eyes fixed on the television. "Anything for family," he said softly. Inside, his mind cataloged every lie, every move. The web they had spun was intricate, but Jack had already found the thread to pull it all apart. And when it unraveled, it would be merciless. Jack waited until Ashley left the house again. Another Pilates session, or so she claimed. Brandon's truck was parked outside the same gym half the afternoons now. Predictable. Sloppy. He had no time to waste. Jack moved through the house methodically. First, he upgraded the surveillance. 2 more cameras, one hidden inside a bookshelf facing the living room, another tucked near the kitchen window. He adjusted the living room camera to get a wider view, catching both the front door and the couch where Ashley liked to lounge. Next came the audio recorders. Small black discs, magnetized, placed carefully under the coffee table and inside the lampshade. Their range would cover whispered conversations, even from across the room. Jack checked the laptop feeds. All clear, high resolution, smooth sound pickup. Perfect. Satisfied, he cleaned everything meticulously, leaving no trace of tampering. Then he replaced the furniture exactly where it had been. The entire operation took under an hour. When Ashley returned, arms full of shopping bags, Jack met her at the door with a grin. "Looks like you did some damage," he joked, taking the bags from her. Ashley laughed, a little too brightly. "Retail therapy. You know me." He didn't know her. Knew her better than she realized. Knew the way she spent extra when she felt guilty, trying to plaster over sins with new dresses and perfume. Jack placed the bags on the kitchen counter, kissed her cheek, and smiled like he was still the trusting fool she thought he was. In reality, he had set the first trap, and he was about to watch it spring. 2 days later, Jack sat alone in his basement. The glow of the laptop screened the only light. He hit play. The living room camera showed Ashley pacing back and forth, phone pressed to her ear. "Baby, he is still clueless," she whispered, voice soft and sweet. "He thinks I am at book club tonight." Jack clenched his fists, but forced himself to stay calm. Focused. Brandon's voice crackled faintly through the recorder. "I miss you. Wish I could be there." Ashley flopped onto the couch, giggling. "Soon, okay? Soon we will have it all." Jack leaned closer as Ashley said something that sent cold fire through his veins. "We will push for custody. Say he is unstable. Military damage. It will be easy." Brandon laughed on the other end. "And the house?" Ashley smiled lazily. "All mine once the papers are signed." Jack paused the video. The walls around him seemed to breathe, the old foundation groaning softly under the weight of a secret too heavy for words. They had not just betrayed him physically. They had plotted to destroy his life, his name, his bond with his son. Jack sat back, staring at the frozen image of Ashley smiling into the phone. This was not heartbreak anymore. This was war. And Jack Morgan had never lost a war in his life. Jack spent the next 3 days moving in shadows. Every free moment Ashley had, yoga, spa appointments, coffee with friends, Jack used them. He combed through bank records, phone logs, browser history. He found hotel charges disguised as business expenses, Venmo payments labeled for the babysitter that matched nights she claimed to work late. The evidence piled up like bodies on a battlefield. Each discovery fueled him, sharpening his mind into a blade. He worked quietly. No accusations. No confrontations. No outbursts. He cooked dinner, helped Tyler with homework, laughed at Ashley's fake stories. He was the perfect husband on the surface. Below that surface, he was setting mines under every step Ashley and Brandon took. Tyler remained Jack's North Star through it all. Every hug, every whispered goodnight strengthened Jack's resolve. He would not let his son grow up thinking this chaos was normal. He would not let Tyler believe love was a lie. Late one night, after Ashley had drifted into drunken sleep on the couch, Jack sat at the kitchen table, scribbling in the black notebook again. Phase 2, total exposure. The time for gathering intel was almost over. Soon, it would be time to pull the trigger. And when he did, Ashley and Brandon would not even see it coming. Jack knew that physical betrayal was one thing, but financial betrayal? That could be fatal. He spent long nights after Ashley fell asleep, tracing Brandon Tate's paper trail. The man was as careless with money as he was with loyalty. Bank statements revealed a hidden web, shady real estate deals, cash loans with absurd interest rates, even a few offshore accounts registered to fake companies. Brandon was not just a homewrecker. He was a criminal. Jack made notes with the precision of a sniper. Every transaction, every alias, every shell company was listed in his black notebook. He dug deeper, calling in favors from old Navy buddies now working cybersecurity. Within 2 days, he had Brandon's entire dirty financial history spread out in front of him like a battlefield map. Then came the real stroke of genius. Jack created a new anonymous email account and crafted a detailed report. Bank fraud, tax evasion, money laundering. A mountain of evidence, all carefully organized. He attached the file to an email addressed to 3 recipients. Internal Revenue Service, Financial Crimes Division, Local FBI, Field Office, the State's Department of Revenue Enforcement. The subject line read simply, "Urgent tip. Ongoing financial crime." Jack hit send without hesitation. He sat back, breathing slowly, like he used to after setting a demolition charge. Now he waited. The explosions would not be loud. They would come as subpoenas, asset freezes, quiet federal investigations. The kind of destruction that ripped apart lives from the inside out. The best kind. Jack understood one truth from his SEAL days. Revenge worked best when executed through invisible hands. He made a few calls. Men who owed him from missions where lives had hung in the balance picked up the phone without question. Within 48 hours, Jack had a private investigator watching Brandon's house and business. An off-duty cop willing to keep him posted on any warrants issued. A tech specialist monitoring Brandon's phone activities through silent software. The walls around Brandon and Ashley were already starting to close in, and neither of them had the faintest idea. One night, Jack met his old contact, an ex-SEAL turned lawyer, at a dusty diner on the outskirts of town. "Your wife and your so-called buddy are idiots," the lawyer said after glancing at the files Jack handed over. Jack smiled grimly. "I know. You want my advice?" the lawyer continued. "When the hammer falls, make sure you are standing so far above them they cannot even scream your name." Jack nodded, absorbing every word. He slid a thick manila envelope across the table. Custody paperwork, emergency petitions, restraining order drafts. Prepared in advance. No hesitation. No mercy. As he left the diner that night, Jack inhaled the cold desert air. His enemies still thought they were winning. They thought he was asleep at the wheel. But Jack Morgan was wide awake. And he was just getting started. 2 weeks later, Jack struck the next blow. He sat in a polished oak office across from a sharp-eyed family attorney, laying out Tyler's medical reports, copies of the threatening notes, surveillance footage, Ashley's affair evidence, a mountain of damning proof. The attorney, a woman who had won brutal custody battles for battered military fathers before, nodded approvingly. "You have enough here to paint her as unfit," she said. "And with the financial crimes tied to Brandon, even better." Jack did not smile. He just nodded once. The paperwork was filed the same afternoon. Petition for full custody. Restraining order request. Asset protection order to freeze joint accounts pending investigation. Ashley would be served within days. And she would have no idea it was coming until the papers hit her hand like a hammer. Jack sat outside the courthouse afterwards, watching the people pass, feeling the weight of years falling off his shoulders. He had given Ashley his loyalty, his trust, his heart. She had burned it all to the ground. Now Jack was building something new, a future for himself and Tyler, away from her poison. The chessboard was set. The first pieces had moved. And soon, the queen would fall. Tyler's birthday arrived under a gray sky, the kind that seemed to press low against the world, heavy and expectant. Jack had planned a small gathering. A few close friends from school, some neighbors, a simple cake. Ashley, of course, turned it into a spectacle. She booked a clown, a bouncy castle, catered food. She posted dozens of photos online with captions like "proud mom moments" and "blessed to raise such a strong boy." Jack watched it unfold with a growing sense of disgust. Every smile Ashley flashed for the camera, every fake hug for Tyler, was a calculated move. A performance meant to polish her image, to erase the cracks underneath. Jack stayed silent, moving through the party like a ghost. Tyler clung close to him, avoiding Ashley's overly bright smiles and fake kisses. The boy knew. Maybe he could not name the feeling yet, but he felt the wrongness. Jack noticed Brandon too, lurking at the edges of the backyard, pretending to be just a friend, helping out. Jack caught him smirking at Ashley across the balloons and cupcakes more than once. The cameras caught it all. Later, after the guests had gone and Ashley buzzed around gathering trash bags and decorations, Jack sat with Tyler in his room. "You were amazing today," Jack said, ruffling Tyler's hair gently. "Everyone had fun because of you." Tyler smiled a little, the first real one all day. Downstairs, Ashley laughed too loud into her phone, probably gushing to Brandon about what a perfect little act they had put on. Jack tucked Tyler into bed and stood at the doorway for a long moment, watching him sleep. His son deserved better. He deserved truth, not lies wrapped in party favors. And Jack was going to give it to him, no matter what it cost. The next morning, Jack sat at the kitchen table, coffee growing cold beside him, the burner phone resting heavy in his palm. It was time. He typed the message carefully, every word sharp and deliberate. To local newspaper investigative desk subject. Urgent tip. Misconduct and fraud. An influential member of our community has been engaged in financial crimes and moral misconduct that endangers public trust. Attached are documents, photographs, and financial records proving the illegal activities of Brandon Tate. owner of Tate Construction. His accomplice is Ashley Morgan. Children are involved. Silence will only protect criminals. Attachments uploaded. Send. Jack leaned back and exhaled slowly. He was not finished yet. He sent a second package, physical copies, to the County Child Services Department, detailing Ashley's coercion of Tyler, the injury, and her manipulation tactics. He included the hospital report, the note Tyler had been forced to write. Real evidence. Hard, undeniable. Jack had seen governments fall with less preparation than he had gathered. Now, the dominoes would start falling, and Jack Morgan had no intention of stopping them. The first email response pinged in under an hour. Thank you for your submission. Our team is investigating. Jack sipped his coffee, a grim smile tugging at his mouth. This was how real war was fought. Quiet, surgical, unstoppable. Jack moved through the days like a man possessed, but outwardly nothing changed. He still smiled at Ashley over breakfast, still kissed her cheek when she left for fake errands, still helped Tyler with school projects at the dining room table. But inside, he was wiring explosives, setting triggers, lining up his perfect shot. Every interaction was another fuse laid. Every fake laugh Ashley gave was another ounce of dynamite packed into her future collapse. He met discreetly with his attorney again. They finalized the custody emergency hearing date. He reviewed the IRS progress. Brandon's accounts were being quietly frozen, investigations underway. He spoke with a reporter under the protection of anonymity. Articles were already being drafted. Ashley had no idea her world was a minefield now. One misstep would be catastrophic. One night, while Ashley slept upstairs, Jack sat in the backyard, staring up at the stars, feeling the desert night wind cut across his skin. He thought about Tyler's future. He thought about the men he had lost overseas, brothers who had given everything to protect their families back home. He thought about the promises he had made to himself, to never let the innocent suffer if he could prevent it. He opened the black notebook again, flipped to the last page. Phase 3, Detonation. Jack closed the book with a decisive snap. It was almost time. Almost time for them to realize they had never been in control. Jack Morgan was, and he was ready to end it. The evening sun painted the sky in blood-red strokes as Jack set the dining table. Candles flickered in tall glass holders. A roast chicken rested at the center, steaming, filling the house with the scent of rosemary and garlic. Ashley came down the stairs, surprised. You cooked? Jack smiled warmly. Wanted to do something special. She laughed, tossing her hair back like she was 17 again. Maybe I should leave you alone more often. Jack pulled out her chair like a perfect gentleman. Maybe you should. They ate quietly, the silverware clinking softly. Jack listened to Ashley chatter about her day, Pilates, shopping, how busy everything was. She did not mention Brandon once. Jack sipped his wine, nodding where appropriate, eyes watching her like a sniper watching a target through the scope. You look tired, Ashley said suddenly, frowning. You are working too hard. Maybe you should take some time off. Jack leaned back, swirling the wine in his glass. Maybe. Inside, he was laughing. She was trying to set the stage. Play the worried wife now, so when she accused him later, unstable, exhausted, it would look believable. Jack set his wine down carefully. You know what I realized today? He said, voice casual. Ashley tilted her head, smiling curiously. Sometimes, Jack continued, the people closest to you are the ones who cut the deepest. For a fraction of a second, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, recognition. But she masked it quickly, laughing too loudly. That is dark, Jack. He smiled back, raising his glass in a silent toast. Dark? She had no idea how dark things were about to get. The house slept quietly. Jack did not. He sat in the basement again, laptop open, camera feeds running. It was time. He backed up all footage onto 3 separate hard drives. One hidden in the attic, one in his car trunk, one he would deliver to his attorney in the morning. Redundancy was survival. He wrote a final email to the reporter, a green light for them to publish everything at dawn. He placed the custody hearing documents in his briefcase, along with Tyler's medical records and the evidence of Ashley's coercion. Upstairs, Ashley stirred in her sleep, oblivious. Jack's hands moved methodically, packing, preparing, locking everything down. When the clock hit 3 a.m., he stood by the window, watching the streetlights hum against the dark sky. In less than 24 hours, Ashley's world would implode. Brandon's too. He was not going to scream at them. He was not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing him break. Jack Morgan was going to dismantle them with the precision of a SEAL operation. And when the dust settled, only he and Tyler would be left standing. He closed the laptop, slid the black notebook into his jacket, and turned off the basement lights. The storm was almost here, and he was ready. Morning broke bright and sharp. Jack dressed in a crisp shirt, tailored slacks, polished boots. The image of calm professionalism. Ashley stumbled into the kitchen, bleary-eyed. "You are up early," she mumbled, reaching for coffee. Jack poured her a cup, smiling. "Big day," she nodded, distracted, scrolling through her phone. The first alert came a minute later, her face paling as she read the headline. Local businessman Brandon Tate under federal investigation for fraud and money laundering. Ashley's hand trembled so slightly Jack almost missed it. Almost. More pings. More notifications. Texts from friends. Calls from neighbors. Within an hour, Brandon's world was in free fall. Jack watched silently as Ashley scrambled, muttering excuses, trying to call Brandon, getting no answer. By noon, papers were served at the front door. A courier. Emergency custody petition. Restraining order. Bank account freezes. Ashley stared at the documents as if they were written in a language she had never seen before. She turned to Jack, mouth opening and closing without sound. Jack picked up his briefcase calmly. "Tyler and I have an appointment," he said smoothly. "You should call a lawyer." Then he walked out the door into the sunlight, feeling lighter than he had in years. Behind him, Ashley stood frozen in the wreckage of her perfect little lies. And Jack never looked back. Ashley sat slumped at the kitchen table, her phone buzzing nonstop. The news had spread like wildfire. Brandon's mugshot had made it onto every local news outlet. The charges read like a laundry list of federal crimes: wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy. Ashley's social media blew up with comments she could not delete fast enough. "You were part of it, right? Shame on you. Your poor son deserves better." Jack watched from the hallway, unseen, silent. Ashley's hands trembled as she tried to dial Brandon again. Straight to voicemail. Again and again. Tyler sat on the couch, hugging his knees to his chest, sensing the chaos but not fully understanding it. Jack moved to him, kneeling quietly. "You want to go out for a while?" he asked softly. "Just you and me." Tyler nodded without hesitation. Ashley heard them moving and jumped up. "Where are you going?" Jack turned, his face unreadable. "I think some fresh air will do Tyler good." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Her phone buzzed again, another article notification. Jack led Tyler out the front door, the sunlight striking his face cleanly. He did not need to yell. He did not need to fight. Ashley was drowning in her own lies now, and Jack was only beginning to uncover just how deep the betrayal went. That night, after Tyler was safely asleep, Jack sat alone in his office, reviewing paperwork for the court hearing. A knock sounded at the door. Ashley entered hesitantly, clutching a folder. "I need to talk to you," she said, voice tight, desperate. Jack said nothing, just gestured for her to sit. Ashley's eyes darted around the room. I did something. Something bad." Jack leaned back, crossing his arms, waiting. Ashley slid the folder across the table. "If you take this to court, it will ruin me." Jack opened the folder. Inside, forged documents. Fabricated emails accusing Jack of mental instability. Fabricated witnesses ready to swear he was dangerous. Jack's blood turned to ice. "You planned to frame me," he said, voice low and cold. Ashley swallowed hard, tears filling her eyes. "Brandon said it was the only way. If we could prove you were unfit, we could keep Tyler." Jack rose slowly from his chair, towering over her. "You were willing to destroy your own son's future to protect your affair," he said, each word a bullet. Ashley sobbed, falling to her knees. "I did not mean for it to go this far." Please, Jack, we can fix this. Jack stared down at her, the woman he had once loved, now unrecognizable. Fix this? No, there would be no fixing. Only justice. Real, final justice. Jack gathered every document, every fake report Ashley had created, sealing them into a heavy black file folder. He called his attorney that night. I need an emergency update to the custody petition, Jack said, his voice a steel cable pulled tight. By morning, the papers were filed. Ashley was formally accused not just of negligence, but of malicious endangerment. The court hearing was moved up. Within 72 hours, she would stand before a judge and answer for every lie, every manipulation. Jack watched Ashley crumbling as the hours ticked by. She barely ate, barely slept. She paced the living room like a caged animal, muttering to herself. Jack said nothing. There was nothing left to say. He focused on Tyler, helping with homework, cooking dinners, watching movies together, shielding him from the growing storm as best he could. The morning of the hearing, Jack dressed Tyler carefully in a neat button-down and khakis. Ashley sat in her bedroom, staring blankly at the wall, wearing the same wrinkled clothes she had slept in. When Jack opened the front door, Tyler held his hand tightly. Ashley called after them weakly, Jack, please. I never wanted to lose him. Jack looked back once, cold and final. You lost him the moment you chose yourself over him, he said quietly. Then he turned and walked out into the waiting daylight, his son's small hand wrapped firmly in his own. He had won half the battle already. The rest would be decided in court. And Jack was ready. The courthouse loomed under a gray sky, sharp lines cutting into the horizon like a blade. Jack parked the truck, resting his forehead against the steering wheel for a long moment. Old instincts stirred inside him. Memories of courtrooms and military tribunals, the cold smell of fear and defeat. But this was different. This was about Tyler. Jack stepped out, adjusting his jacket, and walked around to open Tyler's door. You ready, buddy? He asked. Tyler nodded bravely, clutching his small backpack. Inside the courthouse, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Marble floors echoed with every step. Ashley was already there, sitting on a wooden bench outside the family courtroom. She looked like a ghost of herself, hair limp, makeup smudged, eyes hollow. Jack ignored her completely. Their attorney met them near the doors, a stack of folders tucked under one arm. You have the evidence? Jack asked quietly. The lawyer nodded. Every lie, every threat, every frame-up attempt. Today, we fight for him. Jack squeezed Tyler's hand gently. When the courtroom doors opened, Jack walked forward steadily, feeling the weight of 100 memories pressing down. The battle had begun. But this time, he was not fighting for survival. He was fighting for something even more important, his son's future. And Jack Morgan had never lost a fight that mattered. While Jack prepared for court, Brandon Tate's life was unraveling faster than even Jack had predicted. The FBI raided his office at sunrise. Agents carted away boxes of files, laptops, and hard drives. By mid-morning, Brandon was splashed across every news outlet. Local businessmen accused of federal crimes. Community shocked. Jack's private investigator texted updates as they happened. Subject spotted. Brandon pacing parking lot. Screaming into phone. Looks unstable. Jack pictured it vividly. Brandon sweating, cursing, trying to claw his way out of the trap. But there was no escape now. Later that afternoon, Jack's lawyer received a call from Brandon's attorney. Desperation oozed through the line. Brandon is willing to testify about Ashley's role, the attorney said quickly. He wants to cut a deal. Jack almost laughed. Of course Brandon would turn rat. Loyalty meant nothing to a man who had built his life on lies. Jack leaned back in his chair, speaking calmly. Tell him to put everything in writing. Sworn affidavit. Detailed timeline. The attorney hesitated. And in exchange? Jack smiled coldly. In exchange, I will not bury him deeper. The deal was made before sunset. Brandon would hand over everything. Text messages, emails, financial transfers between him and Ashley. A full map of their betrayal. Jack stared at the growing file, feeling no satisfaction. Only inevitability. The truth was a weapon. and Jack was about to use it without mercy. The night before the final custody hearing, Jack sat at the kitchen table, sorting evidence into tidy piles. A folder labeled Ashley's financial deception caught his eye. He opened it slowly. Bank statements, transferred money, thousands siphoned from Jack and Ashley's joint savings into a secret account under Ashley's maiden name. Money that was supposed to be for Tyler's college fund. Gone. Spent on hotel rooms, gifts for Brandon, and shopping sprees. Jack felt something tighten deep in his chest, a deep, steady burn. He scanned each page carefully, building the timeline, connecting the dots. Ashley had not just cheated with Brandon. She had stolen Tyler's future to fund her betrayal. Jack closed the folder carefully. Outside, the wind howled against the windows, rattling the house like an old, dying animal. Jack stood up, looking around the house he had built with his own hands. The walls, the floors, the memories. It was all poison now, but it would not poison Tyler. Jack would burn it all to the ground if he had to. Better ashes and honesty than living in a temple of lies. Tomorrow, the world would see Ashley Morgan for what she really was, and Tyler would finally be free. The night of the charity gala arrived crisp and cold. The grand ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, filled with the city's elite, judges, politicians, business owners. Ashley moved through the crowd in a stunning red dress, her smile wide but brittle. Jack watched from the balcony, a glass of water in hand, scanning the room with calm detachment. Tonight was not about rage. It was about revelation. At exactly 8 p.m., Jack nodded at the event coordinator, a woman whose brother Jack had once pulled from a burning vehicle overseas. She slipped away to the control booth. Moments later, the ballroom screens, meant for slideshow presentations, flickered. Then, screenshots, texts, emails, photos. Ashley and Brandon's affair, Brandon's fraud dealings, the bank thefts, all displayed in high definition for the entire room to see. Gasps spread through the crowd. People fumbled their drinks, stared in horror, whispered sharply. Ashley froze mid-sentence, her wine glass slipping from her hand and shattering on the marble floor. Jack watched her from above, emotionless, as her perfect image crumbled to ash in front of everyone she had ever cared about. Some guests turned away in disgust. Others openly filmed with their phones. By the time security reached the stage to shut down the projector, the damage was done. Ashley stumbled toward the exit, shoes clacking loudly against the floor, her world collapsing with every step. And Jack simply finished his water, turned, and walked away. Another enemy, another battlefield, and another silent victory. 2 days after the gala, Jack stood before the family court judge. Across the room, Ashley sat with her new attorney, her third in less than a month, pale and broken. The evidence Jack presented was overwhelming. Video recordings of Ashley's threats, financial records of stolen funds, affidavits from Brandon confessing their plans. Jack kept his statements calm and factual. No dramatics. Only the cold, brutal truth. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and little patience for liars, listened carefully. After an intense hour of testimony and evidence presentation, she closed the file with a decisive snap. In the matter of Tyler Morgan's custody, she said firmly, sole legal and physical custody is awarded to Jack Morgan. Supervised visitation rights for Ashley Morgan are suspended indefinitely pending psychological evaluation. Ashley gasped audibly. Her attorney tried to object, but the judge silenced him with a look. This court takes the safety and well-being of children seriously, she said. This behavior is reprehensible. Jack bowed his head respectfully, squeezing Tyler's hand as the boy smiled up at him. It was over, at least the legal part. But Jack knew wars like this never truly ended cleanly. There were always loose ends to tie off, and Jack intended to tie them all tightly. While Ashley's life smoldered in ruins, Jack moved swiftly. He froze all joint assets, locking down every account Ashley could possibly touch. He filed civil suits for restitution, demanding repayment of stolen funds, damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and Tyler's medical costs. Jack's attorney moved like a shark in bloody water, filing motion after motion, stacking so much legal pressure on Ashley she could barely keep her head above water. Jack did not do it out of spite. He did it for protection. Ashley needed to be crippled legally, financially, unable to ever rise again to threaten Tyler's safety. Within weeks, Ashley's car was repossessed. The house's title was shifted entirely to Jack. Her credit score plummeted into the ground. Every friend she had clung to distanced themselves quietly, embarrassed to be associated with the scandal. And Brandon? Brandon had it worse. A federal indictment loomed over him like a guillotine, and word on the street was that he had flipped, offering names of other dirty businessmen in exchange for a shorter sentence. Jack watched it all unfold with calm detachment. Justice was a slow grind sometimes. But when it hit, it crushed everything in its path. Inside a cold, windowless interrogation room, Brandon Tate sweated bullets. He looked nothing like the cocky, smooth-talking man Jack remembered. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled, cheap clothes. A handcuff chain rattling whenever he moved. The FBI agents stared him down, expressionless. "You want a deal, Tate?" the lead agent said. "You better start talking." Brandon spilled everything. Every scam. Every fake invoice. Every offshore account. And most importantly, every sick manipulation he and Ashley had plotted against Jack. He even confessed that Ashley had planned to claim Jack was abusive toward Tyler, setting him up for a complete character assassination. The agents recorded every word. Outside the room, Jack's private investigator waited, smiling slightly as he took notes. Jack would never set foot inside the interrogation room. He did not need to. Brandon was destroying himself better than Jack ever could. By the end of the day, new charges were filed. Brandon would face decades behind bars. And Ashley's name was dragged even deeper into the mud. Exactly as Jack had planned from the very first moment he had uncovered that second phone in the garage. Patience, precision, revenge served with the discipline only a Navy SEAL could deliver. And Jack was not finished yet. Not by a long shot. Jack sat in his living room, late evening light slanting across the floorboards. He read the transcript from Brandon's deposition, flipping page after page, the words sinking into his mind like bullets. Buried halfway through was a revelation Jack had not anticipated. Brandon had not been faithful to Ashley either. While Ashley had plotted, schemed, stolen, and lied for him, Brandon had been sleeping with at least 2 other women, one of them her best friend. Jack exhaled slowly, the absurdity of it all hitting him like a cold slap. Ashley had thrown away her marriage, her family, her son's future, for a man who saw her as disposable entertainment. Jack leaned back, staring at the ceiling. It was not just betrayal. It was pathetic. Ashley had destroyed everything for a fantasy that had never even been real. He wondered if she knew. He wondered if she would care. Probably not. People like Ashley lived in illusions. The truth was just an inconvenience to them. Jack closed the file slowly, feeling no pity, no anger. Only grim satisfaction. Brandon and Ashley had thought they were clever. But all they had done was destroy each other, brick by brick, lie by lie. And Jack was still standing. Because truth, real, unshakable truth, always outlasted cowards and liars. The house felt empty now. Ashley had been legally forced to vacate after the custody ruling. Her things, clothes, makeup, decorations, were boxed up and waiting on the porch for a courier to collect. Jack moved through the rooms quietly, checking each one, clearing out the last remnants of the life they had built together. He found a forgotten photo album tucked in the hall closet. Old pictures, smiling vacations, birthdays, Christmas mornings. He stared at them for a long moment, feeling nothing. Not sadness, not nostalgia, just an odd, quiet distance. The man in those photos was gone, replaced by someone leaner, harder, wiser. Jack tossed the album into a box without ceremony. Some wreckage was not worth salvaging. Outside, the moving van pulled up. 2 men loaded Ashley's boxes quickly, avoiding Jack's gaze. He stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching as the last pieces of the lie drove away into the fading afternoon. Tyler came outside, blinking up at him. "Is it over?" the boy asked. Jack knelt, pulling him into a hug. "Almost," Jack said. "Almost, buddy." They stood there for a long moment, father and son, together in the cooling air. The wreckage was clearing, and in its place, Jack was building something new, something real. The final custody hearing felt more like a funeral than a trial. Ashley appeared, pale and shaky, her new attorney carrying a thin, pitiful file of defenses. Jack and his team came prepared, full evidence packages, sworn statements, video footage, medical reports. The judge listened quietly as Ashley's lawyer tried to paint her as a misguided but loving mother. Jack's attorney stood calmly and dismantled every argument, point by point. The fake frame job exposed. The financial fraud documented. The coercion of Tyler confirmed. Finally, the judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Morgan," she said, voice sharp, "your actions show a consistent pattern of deception, endangerment, and selfish disregard for your son's well-being." Ashley stared at the floor, unmoving. "In the best interest of Tyler Morgan," the judge continued, "this court grants permanent full custody to Jack Morgan. Mrs. Morgan is hereby restricted from any unsupervised contact." A final bang of the gavel sealed it. Jack sat there, breathing deeply, the reality sinking in. It was over. Truly over. No more courtrooms. No more lawyers. No more lies. Just him and Tyler, finally free. He turned and smiled at his son, who grinned back and mouthed two words, "Thank you." Jack felt his chest tighten painfully. He had won. Not out of hate, but out of love. 2 weeks later, Jack watched the news from his living room, Tyler playing quietly with Legos nearby. Brandon Tate, flanked by 2 federal marshals, was being led into a courthouse in handcuffs. The charges scrolled across the screen: conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, attempted defamation. Brandon's face was a mask of defeat, pale, sweating, hollow-eyed. Gone was the cocky charm, the fake smiles, the smug laughter. The news anchor reported that Brandon had accepted a plea deal, 15 years without parole. Ashley's name was mentioned too, but no charges had been filed yet. Not yet. Jack turned the TV off calmly, feeling no need to celebrate. Brandon was finished. He would rot behind bars, forgotten by the same world he had tried to cheat. Ashley's fall was still ongoing, a slow, public collapse Jack had no interest in accelerating. Some things destroyed themselves. Jack looked at Tyler, who was building a tower, tongue sticking out in concentration. That was the future Jack cared about. Not revenge anymore. Not rage. Just life. Real life. And for the first time in a very long time, Jack felt something close to peace. Ashley sat alone in the corner of the courtroom hallway, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Jack approached slowly, flanked by his attorney. He had no sympathy left, only a cold duty to finish what he had started. Ashley looked up at him, eyes red, makeup smeared. "Jack, please. I did not know what I was doing. I never meant to hurt Tyler." Jack stared at her, unreadable. "You knew exactly what you were doing," he said quietly. "You just never thought you would get caught." Her lower lip trembled. "He needed me." Jack leaned closer, his voice a low knife. "He needed a mother, not a liar." She shrank back, tears spilling freely now. Jack's lawyer handed her a thick envelope. Inside were documents, restraining orders, visitation restrictions, asset seizure notices. The final nails in the coffin. Ashley flipped through the papers with trembling hands, the realization hitting her like slow, brutal waves. Her marriage, her home, her finances, her son, all gone. Jack watched her silently. The man he used to be buried somewhere far behind him. "You chose this," he said simply. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her sitting there, drowning in the wreckage of her own making. No more threats. No more lies. It was over. The day Tyler stood in court to tell his story was the hardest day Jack had ever faced. The boy stood bravely, small shoulders squared, facing the judge with wide, solemn eyes. Jack's hands balled into fists as Tyler answered questions. "Did your mother tell you to lie about your injury?" the judge asked gently. Tyler nodded. She said, If I told the truth, bad things would happen. The courtroom was silent except for Tyler's trembling voice. Jack watched Ashley from across the room. She sobbed quietly, shoulders shaking, but Jack felt no pity anymore. This was the truth. Raw, undeniable. And Tyler, the child she had tried to manipulate, had chosen honesty over fear. Afterwards, Jack hugged his son tightly outside the courtroom. "You were so brave," he whispered into Tyler's hair. "I just told the truth," Tyler said simply. Jack closed his eyes, fighting the sting. The truth. It had cost them so much. But it had saved them too. And now, there was no going back. Only forward. Together. The final ruling came swiftly. The judge issued a permanent restraining order against Ashley, banning her from unsupervised contact with Tyler until he reached adulthood. Financial penalties stacked up. Ashley was ordered to pay restitution, legal fees, and damages. Her accounts were drained. Her reputation shattered. She was forbidden from contacting Jack directly, ever again. As the judge read the final decision, Jack sat calmly, one hand resting lightly on Tyler's shoulder. Ashley stood frozen, tears streaking her cheeks, but she said nothing. No outbursts. No pleas. Somewhere deep down, she knew it was over. Jack met her eyes once across the courtroom. No hatred. No satisfaction. Just quiet, final acknowledgement. Then he turned to Tyler, smiling. "It is just us now, buddy." Tyler grinned back. The chains were broken. The war was over. And Jack had won. Not by becoming a monster, but by staying true to himself and to the son he loved more than life itself. The first morning in the new house felt strange. Quiet. Safe. Jack stood by the kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching Tyler chase their new puppy across the backyard. The little house was smaller, humbler than the one he had built with Ashley. But every wall, every floorboard, was clean, honest, free of rot. Jack leaned against the counter, letting the morning sun warm his skin. No more lies breathing through the vents. No more betrayals hiding behind fake smiles. Just life. Real, imperfect, beautiful life. Tyler burst through the back door, cheeks flushed from laughter. "Dad, come play." Jack chuckled, setting his mug down. "I am coming, champ." He stepped outside, into the fresh air, into a new beginning. The ghosts of the past would linger, maybe forever. But Jack knew now, they could only haunt you if you let them. And he had already decided. He was done living in shadows. He was done waking up alone. From here on out, he and Tyler would walk forward, into the light, together. The letter arrived on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. A plain white envelope, no return address, tucked between bills and junk mail. Jack felt the tension in his gut the second he saw the handwriting. Jagged, angry, desperate. He opened it carefully, sliding the letter out. Inside, a scribbled, rambling note from Brandon Tate, filled with accusations, threats, blame. "You think you won, Morgan," it read, "but this is not over. I still have people. You ruined me. I will ruin you too." Jack stared at the letter for a long moment, rain tapping the windows like impatient fingers. Typical Brandon. Even locked behind bars, he could not accept defeat. Jack folded the letter neatly, placed it in a clear plastic sleeve, and slid it into a file marked Contingency, Brandon. Then he called his attorney. "Received communication from Brandon Tate," Jack said flatly. "Threats documented. Keep it on file." The lawyer agreed. Jack hung up, feeling nothing but a distant, cold satisfaction. Brandon would rot behind steel bars for the better part of his life. And if he tried anything, Jack would be ready. He was always ready now. Not out of fear, but because experience had taught him, evil never died cleanly. You just had to be stronger, smarter. And Jack Morgan was both. Summer crept into the desert like a slow-burning fire. Jack stood by the front porch, watching as a moving truck rumbled down the street, carrying the last remnants of Ashley's old life. She had signed the final settlement papers without protest. No appeals. No custody fights. No lawsuits. She was leaving town, slinking away under the cover of shame, heading for a fresh start somewhere far away. Jack felt no triumph. No hatred. Only a deep, aching finality. He had loved her once. But that woman was gone long before the lies surfaced. He picked up Tyler from the neighbor's house later that afternoon. As they walked home, Tyler looked up at him. "She is gone, right?" Jack nodded. "She is gone." Tyler was silent for a moment. Then, "Good." Jack ruffled his son's hair gently. "Come on. We have a lot of good left to build." They walked up the steps together, the late sun casting long, golden shadows across the porch. Inside, the house felt lighter somehow, as if a long-held breath had finally been released. No more battles. No more games. Just the slow, steady work of healing. Together. Weeks passed. Jack found himself settling into a life he had not dared to dream of. Simple mornings. Packing Tyler's lunch. Helping with homework. Evenings grilling burgers under the stars. The nightmares came less often now. The memories of betrayal, rage, humiliation, they faded with time. Not forgotten. Just accepted. Wounds could heal. Scars would remain. But scars told stories. Stories of survival. One night, as Jack sat by the backyard fire pit, Tyler crawled into the chair beside him, dragging a blanket around his shoulders. "Tell me a story, Dad," he said sleepily. Jack stared into the flames, thinking, not about war, not about betrayal, but about resilience. "Once there was a man," Jack began, voice low, "who lost everything he thought mattered. And in the ashes of what was left, he found something better." Tyler listened, eyes wide. Jack smiled slightly, feeling the truth settle deep inside him. "You know what he found?" Jack asked. Tyler shook his head. Jack pointed to his son's chest. "Right there. A heart too strong to break." Tyler beamed, cuddling closer. The fire crackled and roared. The night stretched wide and peaceful around them. And Jack Morgan, scarred but unbroken, found peace in the simplest thing, the family he still had, and the man he had become. Weeks later, Jack sent one final message. Not to Brandon, not to Ashley, but to Ashley's parents, old-fashioned, proud people who had once disapproved of Jack's military service. He mailed them a neat package. Inside, copies of the court documents, evidence of Ashley's affair, proof of the lies and the damage she had done to their grandson. No letter, no explanation, just the truth, pure and unvarnished. He did not expect a reply. He did not need one. But he knew this much. Ashley would never escape what she had done. Not in her new town. Not in her fresh start. Not even among her own blood. Truth had a way of following you like a shadow you could not outrun. Jack leaned back in his chair after sealing the envelope, breathing out slowly. It was not about revenge anymore. It was about justice. And justice, when delivered cleanly, needed no words. Only facts. And the cold, merciless light of day. Jack smiled faintly, watching Tyler play in the yard under the endless blue sky. The past was over. The reckoning was complete. And nothing, no letter, no threat, no memory, could change that. The sun rose slow and golden over the small town. Jack stood barefoot in the grass of his new backyard, coffee warming his hands, watching Tyler race the new puppy across the field. No cameras, no lawyers, no whispered betrayals. Just peace. Real peace. Tyler laughed, a wild, free sound that filled the morning air. It was a sound Jack realized he had not heard in a long time. Not the cautious laugh of a boy tiptoeing around tension. A real laugh. Whole. Unbroken. Jack smiled, feeling something deep in his chest unclench. He had almost forgotten what freedom tasted like. They spent the morning rebuilding Tyler's old treehouse, sanding, hammering, painting bright blue stripes across the beams. When they finished, they sat inside it together, legs dangling, the puppy snoring softly at their feet. "Do you think it will always be like this?" Tyler asked quietly. Jack looked at the endless stretch of sky, the open road beyond the hills. "No," he said honestly. "Life changes. Sometimes it gets messy. Sometimes it hurts." Tyler nodded solemnly. "But," Jack continued, "as long as we have each other, we can get through anything." Tyler grinned and leaned against him. Jack wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders, holding him close. They had survived the worst storms. They had walked through fire and come out stronger. And now? Now they were ready to live, truly live, together. Months later, on a cool autumn evening, Jack stood at the kitchen counter, pen in hand. He was writing a letter, not to Ashley, not to Brandon, not even to Tyler. A letter to himself. A reminder. Strength is not about how hard you can hit back. It is about how long you can walk through hell without losing your soul. He tucked the letter into the back of his black notebook, the same one he had once used to plan his quiet war. The war was over, and he had won, not by becoming a monster, but by refusing to let monsters make him one. As he closed the notebook, Tyler bounded in, holding a report card with straight A's and a proud grin. Jack scooped him up, laughing, spinning him around the kitchen. They were whole. They were free. They were unbreakable. And no past betrayal, no old wound, no shadow of anger could touch that. Jack had built a new life from ashes, not by forgetting what had been done, but by choosing to be better, to heal, to grow, to love, even after betrayal, even after war. And that was the real victory. Now I have a question for you. When life breaks you in ways you never imagined, will you choose to stay broken? Or will you rise, stronger than before, with scars that tell your story instead of shame you? Let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I would love to know. Share your thoughts. Your words might inspire someone else. And if you enjoyed this epic, emotional revenge story, do not forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us. We are just getting started, and the next thriller will be even more mind-blowing. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you survived.